What's up, YouTube? Welcome to my top 10 non-metal albums of 2016. If you've already checked out my other two lists on this channel, or if you've headed over to ryanpandymusic.com and checked out my top 10 hip-hop albums, thank you so much. These lists drive me insane, so it is awesome to know that there's people out there somewhere who are getting something out of them. This one is 100% the most difficult list to do because I have the most great music to choose from in terms of just sheer volume. And that's why I decided to break these lists up between metal and non-metal. Because I'm already so salty about what I had to fucking leave off of this one. But if you throw metal in the mix too, I don't get to give enough albums enough love. So yeah, as usual, these are just my favorite records. Nothing's better than anything else. And I know I sound like a freshman year philosophy major when I say that, but it's true. The only way I make these lists is gun to my head, which record would I rather listen to? And that's it. And with this list in particular, I really wouldn't pay too much attention to the exact order of these picks because all 10 of these records are fucking amazing. I just feel so blessed to have been around this year just to hear this shit. But yeah, just please be sure to watch to the end for honorable mentions because there's tons of shit I had to leave out, unfortunately. And yeah, let's get into it. Sliding in at number 10 is the lone EDM record on this list, 99.9% by Kaytranada. His commercial debut, I guess, but it does feel like he's been around for a while, just dropping tons of great singles and great remixes and just showing a lot of promise. And this album did not disappoint. He brings together just such a different array of collaborators for these nocturnal tracks that are sometimes danceable and upbeat and sometimes more vibed out. These songs almost feel like they're radiating fluorescent light out of the speakers. It's just that kind of atmosphere that it creates. And this is one of several recent albums that makes me determined to just dive headfirst into electronic music and just learn everything there is to learn and hear everything there is to hear so I can start reviewing it because I'm so into a lot of what I hear. And this album is the best example of that this year. Top 3 tracks: Glowed Up, Got It Good, and Bullets. Number 9, Frank Ocean with Blonde. One of the most absurdly hyped records all year. And usually I can't stand when one album gets this much hype. Like that totally ruined Chance's new mixtape for me. But this is one of the few that really lived up to it. It's interesting how this record came out in late August because to me, it's the perfect soundtrack for a late night drive at the end of summer where you're just looking around the quiet streets and reflecting on the 3 months of partying that just flew by and what's coming next, which for a lot of people is a change. And I know I could be making zero sense, but that's this album to me. And beyond that, I'm just really into how this is a pop and R&B album, but it's clearly rooted in these hip-hop influences. And I love how Frank's voice has this free-flowing rhythmic flexibility to it that makes a lot of these tracks sound like he's just chatting with you one-on-one. It's a real intimate listen, if anything. Top 3 tracks: Pink and White, Ivy, and Futura Free. Just in front of Frank Ocean at number 8 is Weezer with their self-titled White album. Blown away by this thing. It's vintage Weezer through and through. It's playful and self-deprecating and very much plays like a soundtrack to a summer on a West Coast beach. And at just over a half an hour, it keeps things simple and brief and hooky as hell, and we wouldn't want it any other way. These guys are in their late 40s and some of them in their early 50s, and they still make music with the gusto of teenagers. It's unbelievable. Top 3 tracks: Girl We Got a Good Thing, one of literally the best songs of the year, Wind in Our Sail, and California Kids. At number 7 is the third album from Rittz, Top of the Line. More than justifies its title. This is an incredibly dope, underrated album from an incredibly dope, underrated artist. Rittz is just able to masterfully pair these super lyrical double time bars with banging ear candy production and with these genuinely poppy hooks, which just creates this totally distinct sound. The best thing about Top of the Line, though, is the actual content, what Rittz is saying in these songs. He delves deep into everything: drug abuse, suicide, depression, the death of his dog, falling in and out of love, what racial issues mean for the white rapper, and just tackles all these topics with a rawness and an honesty that's undeniable, and on top of it, pulls off a bunch of fucking bangers. And that's what made this record special for me, was connecting with the weight of Ritz's words and his insane lyrical ability. Top 3 tracks, The Formula, Kisa, you just listen to all of them. Coming in at 6 is Danny Brown's astoundingly good Atrocity exhibition. He took 3 years off and returned with what I think is his most wildly ambitious project to date. A good amount of the horrorcore that was in his early work is gone, and it's replaced with something just as dark and tortured, but something that feels a little more personal. It's one of the most stimulating hip-hop records I have ever heard, whether it be his ADD-inducing beat selection, which runs the gamut from R&B influences to straight hip-hop to rock to whatever the hell Ain't It Funny is, or whether it be his unique delivery, which is often zany and cartoony, but is always rooted in traditional lyricism. This record is beautifully unorthodox, and unorthodox in a way that pushes the entire genre forward. Top 3 tracks, Ain't It Funny, Really Doe, Rolling Stone. Number 5, Radiohead's 9th album, Moon-Shaped Pool. This album, honestly, might have gotten the most listens from me out of all the records on this list because it was the perfect nighttime album for me. Whenever I was feeling down or I was feeling anxious about my life, I would put this record on before bed and just drift away. Because lyrically, it has all this sadness and angst to it, but musically, it's a pretty serene, calming listen. This is my favorite Radiohead, honestly. When they're less electronic and more organic, when they're less stiff and they're more emotive. And this is going to be one of my favorites for years to come. Top 3 tracks, Daydreaming, Present Tense, Dex Dark. Hitting number 4, we've got Empire the Sun with their 3rd record, Two Vines. It's their best album yet, and that's saying a lot because I loved Ice on the Dune. But I really dug this record's more laid-back, less banger-centric vibe. Even though a track like High and Low is like an upbeat, fun song, it was the more low-key, mid-paced tracks with sugar-sweet hooks like Way to Go or the title track that I really fell head over heels for. And it's funny that they put this record out in late October because it has such a summery vibe to it. And maybe that's why I'm so addicted to it, because it just takes me away from reality and makes life seem like this beautiful, blissful thing. Top 3 tracks, Way to Go, Friends, and ZZZ, and Two Vines, and God, this record's great. Number 3, an amazing pop record you may have heard by an artist by the name of Beyonce. The title of the album is Lemonade. I still can't believe how good this is. Like, I thought that it would have lost a bit of its appeal by now because it's been out for 8 months or so, but I love it even more now. Aside from the flawlessly executed variety on the production end, what I love about this record is how it effortlessly balances vulnerability and heartbreak with that swaggering Beyonce self-assurance. She took her very real relationship struggles and wielded them like sharp weaponry, sometimes in a raw and cathartic way, sometimes in a self-empowering way, and sometimes in a way that just felt like it was searching for answers. And the tunes themselves are so diverse and so individual, yet they somehow feel like they're all part of the same story, like they're all different ways to express the same thing. This really is going to be remembered as one of the greatest pop albums of our time. Top 3 tracks, Love Drought, All Night, and Freedom. At number 2, getting the silver medal is Death Grips with Bottomless Pit. Look at that cover. Look at that weird-ass, fucking weird cover. Where do I even start with this? This is just, a lot of people like to label these guys experimental hip-hop, but I prefer to just, they're not wrong. I just prefer to label them just experimental music across the board, because this is just such a crazy blend of hip-hop and punk and some extreme electronic subgenres and a little dose of metal in there, especially with the guitars. Death Grips music is just so perfect for people who are hip-hop fans but are also into more aggressive music like metal and punk, so me. And just what kept me coming back to this over and over again was the fact that I didn't quite understand it. So I got this addiction to it because the first time I heard it, I was just like, what the fuck am I hearing? And I had to keep coming back to it to even wrap my head around it. You'd be hard-pressed to find music more unique and singular and weird than what Death Grips are doing, yet completely listenable, and catchy. This record continues to be like an every couple days listen for me, and it came out in May. I'd say out of all these records I'm going to discuss, this is the one that I would label a must listen. Top 3 tracks, ring a bell, spikes, trash. And number 1, Kanye West, The Life of Pablo. I learned so much from picking this record number 1. First on my hip hop list and then on this one. I learned what it truly meant to just block out other people's opinions and reach deep down and ask myself, what record was my personal favorite? Regardless of what other people think about it, what record to me had the most great songs, the least shitty songs, what record defined the year for me? And that was this one. I'm not a Kanye stan. I wasn't really into Yeezus, wasn't really into Watch the Throne, and I hold a very unpopular opinion that My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is kind of overrated. But The Life of Pablo was special to me. You know, people talk about this record being ADD or schizophrenic or bipolar or whatever mental disorder you want to attach to it. But that's exactly what I loved about it. It just covered an insane amount of ground. So many styles, so many moods, so many collaborators, every single one of whom kills it. And people also mentioned how bad some of the lyrics are on here. The infamous lines about bleached assholes and his dick having GoPro. But I actually loved them because, to me, Kanye was never a good rapper. And when he tried to be, it was sometimes more painful, especially when he was alongside Jay-Z for an entire album. But on this thing, he truly does not care anymore. And it's almost freeing as a listener, knowing that his sole purpose is just to entertain you, not to impress you. And he entertained me more so than anybody else this year. Top 3 tracks, Famous, Waves, and Real Friends, I guess. I don't know. Just listen to the whole fucking thing. I'm sure you have already. And that just about wraps it up. Thank you so much for watching and supporting and sticking it out through all my ranting and raving. Honorable mentions coming right up. And as always, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, or shoot me a message so we can continue to talk music. And I'll see you guys soon.
No phones inside the telly, pics inside the celly. Baby, you know the house rules. Yeah, respect over a dollar, death before dishonor. Partner, you know the house rules. If I'm up, you can't be down, and I'm down to tear shit up for you, homie. You know the house rules. Yeah, all bitches with flat stomachs, no cars under 100, my nigga. You know the house rules. I'm high, chillin' with Bruno on Mars. Quickest verses, put them in hearses, call them funeral bars. But these funeral bars, they bought me them beautiful cars.